the Institute for Security Studies Senior Training Coordinator, Mr. Willem Els, who will be talking to us about that leading story, of course, where we are talking about those detained activists that are currently aboard the Flotilla. Willem, a very good afternoon to you, sir. So welcome. So we have been trying to actually ascertain throughout the whole day, in fact, exactly what are some of the rights of the detainees, specifically in Israel, specifically South African detainees, and the powers of the various governments that they have to ensure the safe return of these activists. Where do they start?
Good afternoon to you. Yeah, of course, we should see this as against the backdrop of the war that's been fought. There's an asymmetrical war between Hamas and Israel, but also, you know, on both sides you have the propaganda war. And there's a lot of noise from both sides. And part of the propaganda drive from the one side is, of course, this flotilla is not the first one. There've been several in the past. And they actually made a big thing out of it to go to Israel and to actually highlight the plight of the people from Palestine and so on, from Gaza. So that is your challenge that you have there. But also, as I mentioned, there is this big war ongoing with the final onslaught at the moment on Gaza City. And then also one thing that is quite interesting there is the deadline that's just been issued by President Trump, where he said that all the other countries have signed now the proposed agreement for peace, and that there's an ultimatum from Hamas now for 6 o'clock American time on Sunday. So all of these is on. If you throw all of that in, and you see that Israel now has got an embargo, they barricade that area at the sea because of smuggling and all the other things, and that is actually a war zone that these people are entering or try to enter, and that is why they stopped them and they took them to the port city, where they detained them because they were now in their territorial waters, etc., etc. We don't know if they got passports, everything, because nobody is saying. So what we heard to us, the latest, that they will be processed and then they will be deported. But the big thing about this now is they could not have gotten there at a worse time, because it's one of the most important public holidays in Israel. So they will have to wait before they can be deported and processed, because everything came to a standstill in Israel at the moment.
But I mean, Willem, deport them because of what laws have they actually breached? I've been asking this question. I feel like I'm a stuck record now, because I was talking to a legal analyst there who also said they don't seem to know what actually the laws that these activists have actually breached, including immigration laws. So if you're deporting people, you're deporting them on a charge, but what charge are they currently under to even be imprisoned in Israel at this stage?
Yeah, at the moment we don't know, because Israel really didn't make known. So they may have several of their regulations and laws that have been broken by them. One of the things, you know, if we got someone here coming to South Africa and we declare them persona non grata, or we found some problem with their passports or something, there are many reasons why you can deport someone that is not a citizen in your country. So I think the same is happening there. So they will obviously they will have their legal representatives there from Israel's side. They would have done their homeworks, and when because, you know, we got here, I think it's 35 countries that are being represented there, or plus. So it is an international national incident for them, and if they don't deal with it according to the law, you know, there will be some repercussions for Israel as well.
So basically 35 countries are being held to ransom at this stage. Willem, you and I have long been talking about the international law and how it often falls very short on many occasions, as some can just totally disregard it. In this instance, is there any law that can be forced upon Israel to release these activists that have now been detained?
Unfortunately, you know, in your international domain, it is very difficult. We've got the UN that can enforce, and the only thing that is actually enforceable by the UN is if it's a United Nations Security Council resolution. And the rest of them are actually only just instruments, and people can voluntarily follow that, etc., etc. And even if you look at your international court like the where South Africa took Israel, all of that, it's not enforceable because, they just don't have that jurisdiction. What they can do there, they can up the international rhetoric, and also they can start with sanctions on other things to force Israel to do something. But because Israel is a sovereign state, there's not a lot apart from war that you can go to, but that is of course the very last option. So yeah, there can be international pressure, there can be sanctions and all of that, but that's a long process, and unfortunately, the environment that we live in when we work with international politics.
And those are some of the calls that we've actually seen through the various protests around the country, Willem, for South Africa, in fact, to cut all ties or sever all ties with Israel. Willem, as always, thank you so much for your input, sir, this afternoon.